And this is where we live, on a blue dot.
Astronomer and Pulitzer Prize-winning author Carl Sagan died of pneumonia today.
A spokesperson at Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center says Sagan died of pneumonia. He had been undergoing treatment for a bone marrow disease for 2 years.
Sagan came close to death twice after being diagnosed with a blood disease in 1994.
The astronomer, educator, and Pulitzer Prize-winning author died of pneumonia at Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center.
He had pneumonia, a complication of his bone cancer.
Sagan's name was synonymous with astronomy. He made the study of the stars more interesting. He did so enthusiastically, and he was always excited about discoveries made in outer space.
To the American scientist, teacher, author, television communicator, Carl Sagan. He died today. The country loses a great enthusiast. He helped millions of us to see farther and understand what we were seeing.
That means, at the very least, that there's a source of water on the moon for human explorers.
Only 2 weeks ago, he told Ted Koppel he was confident he was getting better.
I'm terrific. I've been very, very lucky, and it looks like I'm out of the woods.
We will miss Carl Sagan. Americans were first introduced to Dr. Sagan, the astronomer, back in the 1970s. The moon shots were finished as NASA embarked on less glamorous projects. But Carl Sagan was able to keep public interest alive by making it all so appealing. He wrote 30 books, won a Pulitzer Prize. The author and astronomer became a regular on The Tonight Show.
You want to go exploring, and human beings are big explorers.
The New York Public Library is where a young Carl Sagan first discovered astronomy, and by the time he was 26, he had earned his doctorate in astrophysics. He taught first at Harvard while working for NASA. He moved on to Cornell to begin a 30-year career as a teacher. Dr. Sagan was convinced that we are not alone in the universe. He said he would hate to die and never know for sure. But he died this morning in Seattle from pneumonia, the complication of a bone marrow transplant. At 62, a short life for a science teacher who's done a lot to put life in perspective.
I believe our future depends powerfully on how well we understand this cosmos in which we float like a mote of dust.
And so we choose, obviously, Carl Sagan. From when I was a little kid, he said the only thing I really wanted to be was a scientist, to interrogate nature. That's where the fun is. And that's what he helped us discover as well, Carl Sagan, who died today.
If you're stuck on one world, then you only know about what's possible on one world.
Left millions of fans around the world when he died early today at 62. He was the first celebrity astronomer because he was the one man who could explain it all. He made the complexities of the universe understandable. He made the cosmos fascinating. Carl Sagan was the people's scientist. As a child growing up in Depression-era New York, his imagination was captured by the stars, and he decided to become an astronomer. And later, he became a star. It was the PBS series Cosmos that made the academic a celebrity. For 13 episodes, it retraced the evolution of the universe and was watched by at least 500 million people around the world. For Sagan, it was all about sharing his love of science.
We find out grand issues like the origin, nature, and fate of the universe.
Carl Sagan was diagnosed with bone marrow disease 2 years ago. Norma Quarles has more about his extraordinary life and career.
Carl Edward Sagan, born in New York City in 1934, was a noted astronomer whose lifelong passion was searching for intelligent life in the cosmos.
It seems the height of human arrogance to imagine that this planet is the only inhabited world.
Sagan began researching the origins of life in the 1950s and went on to play a leading role in major U.S. spacecraft expeditions to the planets.
We have looked close up at dozens of new worlds, worlds that we never saw before. And unless we're so stupid as to destroy ourselves, there are going to be people exploring those worlds. There are going to be human habitations on those worlds. We're going to be moving out into space in the next century. And I'm fortunate enough to have played a role in the first preliminary reconnaissance of the solar system. That's a terrifically exciting thing.
Sagan made his mark early, with research showing that Venus is scorching hot and Mars a frozen desert. Among his many gifts was the ability to communicate his knowledge about the cosmos.
Are we an exceptionally unlikely accident, or is the universe brimming over with intelligence? That's a question which every human being resonates to. Everyone understands that that is a vital question for understanding ourselves and our origins.
Sagan came to Seattle for medical treatment after being diagnosed with a blood disease in 1994. Bone marrow donated by his sister and chemotherapy put his cancer in remission.
In 1994, Sagan was forced to look within. Cancer nearly took his life twice. In April 1995, he had a bone marrow transplant at Fred Hutchinson and seemed ready to tackle new questions.
I'd like to begin with just a personal remark. I've been in Seattle for the last 5 months, fighting a life-threatening illness, which it looks as if I've surmounted. And
Sagan returned occasionally to Hutchinson for treatment. He was admitted when his condition worsened about 2 to 3 weeks ago. When he died, Sagan was surrounded by family.
We have swept through all the planets in the solar system, spacecraft of the United States and the Soviet Union, from Mercury to Neptune in a historic 20, 30-year age of spacecraft discovery.
Radio telescopes listening for signs of life in the billions of stars and galaxies, a program close to Sagan's heart, has so far received no response.
It says something, therefore, about the rarity and preciousness of life on our planet. It's something that needs to be cherished, taken care of. So the flip side of not finding life elsewhere is a much greater respect for the life that's here.
Carl Sagan was also a strong voice warning of the dangers of nuclear war. In the 1980s, he wrote a paper describing what might happen should a nuclear conflict take place, how fires would break out throughout the world, how radioactive dust would blanket the Earth, blocking out the sun and creating what was termed a nuclear winter. Eventually, he said, all civilization would be destroyed.
There is a previously unanticipated and very dire set of consequences of nuclear war that nobody had realized before.
But more than anything else, Carl Sagan popularized science for the masses. He spoke a language regular people could understand. He wrote books. He even had his own television series.
King 5's Kathy Kiyomura joins us in the newsroom now with those details. Kathy.
Carl Sagan brought the cosmos to common people. He gave us a better understanding of the mysteries of outer space. He died today in Seattle, leaving a legacy of learning.
We learn about what dumb things not to do on Earth by seeing what's gone wrong on other planets.
The planets of the galaxy might be filled with microorganisms.
His name has become synonymous with his field of study, space. Carl Sagan explored it with rigorous science, discussed it with passion.
Unless we're so stupid as to destroy ourselves, there are going to be people exploring those worlds. There are going to be human habitations on those worlds. We're going to be moving out into space in the next century.
Carl Sagan was 62.